Okay, guy, you ready to go here? This is a show about ready to go. Where are we going, kids? On this train to God knows where. God knows where, says it right there. On the edge of God knows where, here we are today. If I could know where we really are, then I'd tell you, yes sir. Yeah, that's about something there. I don't know. Do some editing, fancy editing. Hey, it's me, Guy. I'm back in San Anselmo. I haven't got things entirely together, so you don't have to worry. Then everything's just fine. You see that card? It's like my last card. I've got... Breathe in, Guy. Breathe out. It's not that difficult. Slow yourself down. Slow yourself down, young man. Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday, October 28th. Back in San Anselmo. Trying to settle in. Already got a certain amount of plans. Trying to get into the... Trying to realize... Don't have to realize. Yeah, well. Anyways, I climbed up Baldy, made it to the top. My head full of thought, full of concepts, full of looking at the world, observations. Two young male bucks saying hello to me as I came over the ridge from a distance. Their heads peering up on the road, looking out at me with their youthful horns. And I said, well, I don't have my camera to take a picture of you guys. And they disappeared. And, you know, I'm thinking of the whole world. And how did I get to think the way I think? When I climbed Baldy and looked down on the metropolitan San Francisco Bay Area, mostly from the safety of beautiful Marin County, looking at the haze. Maybe it's from Southern California fires, a lot of pollution, probably a lot less, of course. Wait, not probably, it was a lot of young people don't know, didn't have that physical experience of how bad smog was back in the 1970s. Thinking of Los Angeles particularly, that was smog. How things have cleared up in so many ways. Acid rain is hardly a term even used anymore. A lot of positive progress, but yet the population of the planet has sort of doubled in that same time. So even though the Cuyahoga River isn't burning in Cleveland anymore, and we've got the EPA, but we're still faced with climate change or climate screw up or whatever we do. My friend Beverly writes me and has written me a few letters, and I thank Beverly for being one of the first people to use my P.O. box and say hello and being supportive. She says, she finishes the letter, "Oh, I'm so sad to see our California as well as," she abbreviates OR and WA, "going up in flames. Climate change is upon us. Hotter, drier weather, and lightning strikes too. Plus hurricanes, flooding, oceans rising too. It's hard to feel joy. Take care, carry on, and be safe. Love, Beverly." Anyways, thank you, Beverly. And Beverly had a lot more to say than this. She's a writer, a poet, who wrote me back, not wrote me, well, she sent me this letter that included clippings from her writings from 1974, when as a poet she spoke at the Mill Valley Library and gave a poetry reading. September 25th, 1974, open reading at Mill Valley Library. She goes, I am an incurable romantic, comma, a mystic, a Jungian-oriented woman, and am also accused of being an eternal optimist. I am awaiting the approaching Aquarian age, the new day, perhaps emerging only after the, quote, childbirth pangs of crisis. I believe in the innate goodness of every individual and the power of that innate positive seed in its outreach to others, of touching others. I love to help people to see themselves, their good points, their positive aspects, to mirror them, as it were. And this wasn't a poem, this is just how she opened her letter. It describes where I am coming from. Anyways, thank you again, Beverly, and anybody else who wants to write me a letter, please do at P.O. Box 694. You are sort of my sponsors right now. Beverly is. So I'm going to say my little Hooray for America thing. I wrote some more down, more lines here in the Hooray for America. And somebody has said, what? Hooray? What do you have to say hooray about? I mean, how could you possibly say hooray? And isn't it actually, for me, I'm thinking, why wasn't I doing hoorays 10 or 20 years ago when we needed it? Hooray for America, red, white, and blue, a rainbow of people, like me and like you. See, I'm just being nuts. Hooray for America, let's get it on. Love, life, and liberty for old and for young. You can take liberties with your poetry guy, with your rhyming. Hooray for America, there's work at hand, spreading good vibes across the land. Hooray for America, deplorables too. A rainbow coalition, good nuts like you. That could possibly be. Hooray for America, let's rock and roll. Have you not heard of the power of soul? Anyways, those were a few writings from last night. In my middle of the night, wake up, brain starts going, firing off, can't slow down. Here's today's Marin Independent Journal, Wednesday, October 28th. Take a look at a few things here in this world. Here in Marin County, California, north of San Francisco, this is a Gannett newspaper. It's a chain of newspapers, kind of a little bit middle of the road. It's got some hires. It has some hard-working local reporters still work for the newspaper. Marin County rules for business openings loosened. Stores, malls, offices can have full capacity. Well, that's amazing. That's good news. I just got back here. And then also they have a picture of cars, and they had a Mill Valley Film Fest, and they did it, everybody in cars. I'm hoping people get out of cars. Obstacles await Biden's virus plan. Anyways, yesterday's report, I read something in the AP story about Biden's plan. I'm here to tell you we can and will get control of this virus, Biden said Tuesday during a campaign stop in Georgia. As president, I will never wave the white flag of surrender. A $3 trillion spending package that cleared the Democratic-controlled House has stalled in the Senate, where Republicans currently hold the majority. Biden has called the Senate GOP so damn stupid, quote, for not passing that measure, but has failed to propose a single comprehensive package of his own. Well, that doesn't sound good. Instead, he has said Congress should approve $30 billion to help schools reopen, and has proposed a $700 billion economic plan. But that plan isn't solely focused on the coronavirus and includes provisions to boost industries like manufacturing to create jobs. Anyways, that sounds good. $3 trillion seems like a lot of trillions of dollars there, more than I would spend, but I haven't figured that out, how they keep issuing the bonds to cover all that debt. I guess people keep buying them. Marin native chosen to lead State Climate Change Corps. Now there's an interesting concept, Beverly. What do you think of the Climate Change Corps? Marin County native Josh Fryman has been chosen to lead the nation's first, oh I see, it's not, I thought it might have been national, the first statewide civilian corps dedicated to preparing for and reversing climate change impacts in California. Created by Governor Gavin Newsom last month as part of a suite of climate-related initiatives, the new Climate Action Corps plans to deploy more than 250 people throughout the state next year, paying them a stipend and offering scholarships to plant tens of thousands of trees, harden homes against wildfire threats, expand programs to reduce food waste, and organize volunteers. Well, I can't find too much to complain about there. The Climate Action Corps. I'm totally believing in the plant a tree concept. I think Arbor Day, every year Arbor Day comes along, and every year I don't hear anything about our community planting a tree. But every year I say I'm going to do something and I never do. So who am I to blame anybody for anything? I think Arbor Day is a fantastic opportunity. It falls right around Earth Day, and we got to do it one of these days. I've often thought, like years back, that, you know, the little old lady in the rose garden, tending her garden in her front yard and hardly going anywhere, was sort of the original climate, what they call them, climate leader. These days there's terms for that type of thing. Climate champion. I've heard you can be a climate champion if you belong to certain organizations, but I always thought that concept of just being a little bit a homebody in your community and taking care of your own garden deserved a certain recognition. And State Climate Change Corps. And yeah, what's our carbon footprint, they say. Anything more? I mean, I can dig into this. State plans to have the first 55 to 60 climate action fellows on the ground in January. Fellows will commit to a period of service up to a year. In exchange, receive a stipend and up to $10,000 scholarship. That sounds good. If it's planting trees, it's okay, I guess. I mean, totally it's okay, but again, I really want to see that happening in local communities. California Volunteers is building a first-in-the-nation platform with the nonprofit organization Volunteer Match to build a statewide hub of volunteer opportunities. Take climate action now. Yeah, the biggest climate action I would say is, again, to leave your car at home and to walk and to find your excitement and entertainment around your corner. Stop the music. Chorus of artists tell Trump to tune it down. The Trump campaign can hardly play a song without the artist denouncing its use and sending a cease and desist letter. Neil Young, John Fogerty, Phil Collins, Panic, and the estates of Leonard Cohen, Tom Petty, and Prince are just a few of those who have objected. Few have objected as adamantly as Young. You know, the thing with Trump lately, I guess, not lately, is I went up on top of Bald Hill and I look at my beautiful Bay Area that You can hear the sounds of construction through the open window here. Just people probably remodeling, or I don't know what's going on. There's probably about 3 or 4 different sources here in suburban San Anselmo. I mean, we've been supposedly getting about 80,000 new residents every year to the greater Bay Area. California itself receives about, I have read, about 40% of all new immigrants end up in California. Gavin Newsom, when he was elected, called for the construction of 3.5 million new units to support the, quote, housing crisis. And I'm just wondering, are we ever going to get to the point where we say, in all kindness, we have an issue on the planet with too many people, that we end up degrading life? You can do a lot of infill, but you can't fake it, and most people don't really want to live in a 100-story skyscraper. God bless Frank Lloyd Wright for the vision. But it's nice to live closer to the ground, actually, to walk out the door, have your feet on the soil. I think that element of, quote, red staters and living in the country is very, very beautiful, very powerful. I can understand why they don't want their own situation to be a imitation of life in Los Angeles. They don't want Los Angelesation to rural Virginia. And whether you think it's an element of racism or whether it's just something of holding on to or protecting a little piece and historic continuity. Is that a code word for racism? I don't think so. It's just protect your world. So when I hear that Trump has, by his actions, have cut even legal immigration by almost a half, I think in the last year, maybe the last, of course COVID has done that in the last year, no doubt. 500,000 people less. I think of the positive environmental impact of that, and I can't pretend that that's not valuable. And I wish that it was at least a glimmer of a glimpse on the radar of our blue state leaders, instead of pumping up this eternal growth mechanism. And I know I'm contrary to the Wall Street Journal's vision of what's good for the country. And sometimes I think that Trump's got the power to keep growth going in the U.S. despite this cutting back of immigration. And it almost makes me believe that the, quote, a green revolution, which is going on despite whatever disbelievers are out there, it's going on because of people like you, and your belief and your commitment, and hopefully you feel like it is about you and not have to worry about blaming others, that we're finding ways of walking gently on the planet Earth, finding ways of respecting it. So when I get up on top of Bald Hill and somebody has, with a bunch of rocks, spelled out the word, this is really strange, I see a word written on the hill and I think, what is the message of the day? Because it wasn't up there yesterday. I didn't bring a camera. And I read the message, and it takes me a few minutes to see it's gristle. The word of the day is gristle, according to some prophet. Words of the prophets are written on top of Baldy. Gristle, and I thought about that. And I like that word. I mean, I thought, well, that's sort of appropriate. Is that there's something inedible that we're having to eat right now. And it's going to require us to spit it out. Now, is there still good meat in that mouthful with the gristle that is worth chewing on and spitting out? In my mind, as I think about my blue state notion and now my local candidates in San Anselmo talk about ADUs like I'm supposed to know what an ADU is in their local debate. Nobody even bothers to explain what an ADU is. But I find out it's some kind of like, it's a, what is it? It's a second unit. A second unit in your backyard. And how everybody could contribute to our housing crisis by building second units in their backyard. And how that kind of just struck me as, no, don't do it. Don't give up your backyard. How could you give up your backyard? Backyards are beautiful. You would give up your backyard just to make an extra, well, of course people would. People would do anything, desperate people. Gristle. Gristle. Well, I'm going to get back to writing more about Trump's 7 accomplishments and Trump's 7 things that I can't stand. But I don't know. It's like, who's telling the planet to slow down? Who's telling people about personal responsibility? God, the cutting back of immigration by 500,000 is like, a year is, just seems like a blessing. That's where I'm at. What else was I going to wrap this show up with? I don't know. Neil Young, YMCA, Joseph Conrad, the material interests of the world versus the balance, material interests, spirit. Material interests, if you keep taking the planet Earth and keep chewing it up, that every piece of acreage is a $sign waiting to be developed, which is the European model from 500 years ago. So we're still doing it 520 some odd years ago since Columbus. 528. Anyways, I'm going on. I'm rambling. I don't know how anybody could listen to this stuff. We're going to do it. Hooray for America, everybody. Pass this through. A little bit of gristle in your diet. Spit it out. Keep walking, talking. It'll be okay. Cheers.